This is the best time for Africa to move towards Russia and China. A wise man once said, "The day you see the West praising me, know that I have failed you." Ahmed Sokoture once said, "If you see the West and Uncle Sam praising any African leader, then know that that leader is bad for his people. But if you see Uncle Sam and the West condemning any African leader, then know that that leader is good for his people." Whenever I tell my homies that Africa need to move towards Russia and China, they keep telling me that no, Africa need to be independent. We don't have to, be under any country again. What most people fail to understand is Africa is still weak militarily. One of the biggest mistakes we Africans do is we over-rely on our resources. The main reason why Africa was colonized because we were weak militarily. We were enslaved because we were weak militarily. And this is the best time for Africa to take advantage of the war between the East and West to break away from colonial shackles, to become independent economically. Africa and Russia and China share a common history. We have a common enemy. And if we work together, we can defeat that enemy. Russia will never be free without Africa being free. Maybe you don't understand this. The main reason why the West continue to fight with the Russians is because of Africa. They get everything basically free from here. Imagine, if Africa become independent, if the West cannot come to this continent and take everything away freely, how is the West going to fund their military industrial complex? Their economy is built on the downfall of we Africans. Both Russia and China is currently weak. They are peddling for influence in the global south. They are trying to change the narrative. They are trying to tell us that they are better than the West and Uncle Sam, and we have to take advantage of them. Remember, back in the Cold War, India and China took advantage of the Cold War and become who they are today. Although Africa and India and China were all part of the non-aligned movement back in the Cold War, but the Chinese and the Indians secretly, they were supported by the Soviet Union. And today, look at where they are. We cannot do it alone, because if we try to build our economy, these guys will bring us down. If we try to rebuild our military, there is no way that they are going to sit and watch us rebuild our military. That is not going to happen. We need a superpower who can stand beside us or by us whilst we develop our continent. Today, everybody is praising Captain Ibrahim Traore. Everybody is happy for the Sahel alliance. Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger alliance wouldn't have been possible without the Russians. Both countries, or these three countries, are supported militarily by the Russians. They continue to supply them with weapons to fight for their independence. What are we waiting for? This reminds me of 1963 OAU meeting in Addis Ababa. Osajifuk Dr. Kwame Nkrumah asked, what are we looking for? What are we waiting for Africa? Every terrorist group you see on the surface of this earth is sponsored by somebody. No, think about this. Where do they get all these weapons from? It is not easy to get weapons. All these terrorist groups who were operating in the Sahelian nations, all of them were sponsored by somebody, because some of the weapons these so-called terrorist groups had, even the state army had no some. How can a terrorist group possess weapons more powerful, more than the states they were operating in? So indeed, if they wanted to fight against these terrorist groups, they would have given Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger the necessary support that they needed to defeat them. Now, even look at whatever is happening across, Europe currently. Because the Sahelian nations are decoupling their economies from the West. Look at the chaos that is currently happening in Europe. You are wondering why the West hate Vladimir Putin with passion. Are you wondering why these guys are fixated on defeating Russia? Vladimir Putin is fighting against the West, not on the battlefield, but in Africa here. I hope you guys remember back in 2022 and 2023, Vladimir Putin warned the West that if they continue supporting Ukraine, Russia is going to retaliate. Many people misunderstood what Putin meant he was going to retaliate against the West. Some quickly interpreted this as Russia was preparing for war against the West, or the Russians were planning to invade the West. Far from that. Putin was fighting this battle in Africa here. He knew very well that if he helped Africa decouple away from the West have nothing and the West will bow to them. Africa was supposed to continue from where our founding fathers left the fight. Almost all our founding fathers who wanted to unite Africa, all of them, one way or the other, was connected to the Soviet Union. I mean the Casablanca group members. Those of you who know much about African Union, you understand what I'm saying. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana independence would have never been possible without the support of the Soviet Union. When they wanted to get rid of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the Red Army came in to protect Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Look at Ahmed Sokoturo of Guinea-Conakry, Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. All of them were somehow connected to the Soviet Union. Take Egypt for example. Egypt would have been like Palestine today if not for the support of the Russians. When the Israelis defeated Egypt and all these Arab countries back in the 6 Days War, Gamal Abdel Nasser decided to move towards the Soviet Union. He decided to seek support from the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union also came into support. The main reason why Egypt was able to defeat Israel in the 10th Ramadan War is because the Soviet Union decided to support Gamal Abdel Nasser with the necessary equipment that Egypt needed. So without Soviet Union support, Egypt wouldn't be where they are today. Sinai wouldn't be where it is today. Sinai, by this time, would have been controlled by the Israelis. But thanks to the Soviet Union, thanks to Khrushchev for supporting Egypt. And today, look at where Egypt is. And that is why Egypt continued to buy more weapons from the Russians, because they know very well that there is no way that the West likes them. When the Israelis were threatening to invade Sinai, the Egyptians wanted help from the West and Uncle Sam. But the West and Uncle Sam refused to give Egypt weapons and decided to arm Israel to fight against the Egyptians. Egypt had no option than to turn to the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union decided to come in and support. Take Vietnam for example. Vietnam would have been a colony of Uncle Sam and the West by now, if not for the support of the Russians. Note that North Vietnam was able to defeat South Vietnam because of the Soviet Union support. Lumumba wouldn't have been unalived if he had moved towards the Soviet Union at the early stage. He tried to do everything on his own. He never wanted any country to have more influence on the DRC. But he realized that he did a big mistake. So at the time he decided to move towards the Soviet Union, it was too late. Uncle Sam and the West had already captured him by Mobutu Sese Seko. You see, one sad reality of Africa is the West and Uncle Sam always use our own people against us. I keep telling my homies that Africa need Russia more than Russia need us. So to those of you who claim, oh, Russia will colonize Africa, no. The point is, Russia has never been interested in Africa. When European leaders met in Berlin to divide Africa like some piece of goat meat, Russia didn't colonize any African country. The main reason why Western Europeans colonized Africa was because of resources and manpower. But the Russians had all these resources, and that is why I see African relation with Russia as less dangerous, because the Russians basically have everything that we have. Russia is richer than any African country. Richer. Congo comes nowhere near the Russians in terms of natural resource. You can Google it right now or use ChatGPT. You can check it right now. Russia wealth or their resource is over 70 trillion. Congo is around 25 trillion. No country on the surface of this earth have more resource more than the Russians. So with or without African resource, the Russians will always survive. The Russians has always survived without us. And that is why we need them more than they need us. So sometimes we Africans should stop this whole, oh, they'll colonize us again. They'll colonize us again. Whether we like it or not, we have no option. We have to move towards what will bring us independence now. Let us not wait for the Russians and Chinese to become more powerful before we try to move towards them. Now that they are still vulnerable, now that they are peddling for influence, this is the best time for us to force them to do whatever we want. Don't get me wrong, nobody or no country on earth here is an angel when it comes to geopolitics. In geopolitics, we call something lesser evil. Everybody is evil, but you choose the lesser evil and work with them. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe, and guys, if you are enjoying this content, please hit on the like button. Africa have a population of 1.3 billion or 1.2 billion, in between 1.2 to 1.3 billion. Yet we have no nuclear weapons. We have nothing to deter aggressors from taking over our resources. The last time South Africa tried to own a nuclear weapon, Uncle Sam and the West went to every length to make sure that South African nuclear program was aborted. The last time Libya tried to create their own nuclear weapons, Muammar Gaddafi was unalived. Now, let's ask this critical question. When the West and Uncle Sam invaded Libya, I hope you guys remember that Libya was working towards a gold dinar for Africa. Africa was trying to create our own reserve currency. Africa was trying, or Muammar Gaddafi was trying to move Africa away from the dollar, reliance or dominance. But look at what happened to him. So what exactly are we waiting for? We know how these guys operate. Why don't we use a different strategy? Other countries use this strategy and it worked for them. India worked with the Russians, were they colonized by the Russians. China is where they are today. Thanks to Russia, are they colonized by the Russians? Vietnam was able to fight for their independence, and look at where they are today, thanks to Russia. So all these countries were not colonized by Russia. What makes you think that, oh boom, all of a sudden Russia is coming to colonize we Africans? Think about it critically. What do you think? Do you think that Russia and Africa should form an alliance or not? If yes, type yes in the comment section. If no, type no in the comment section. It's getting late here and I have to end the video here. Thank you for your endless support always, guys. I've promised you guys that no matter what, I will always do my best to bring you guys this update. I am not home, but I still have to do this because I know that you guys are waiting for a fresh video, or you guys are waiting for an update today. So I will always do my best to bring you guys this update. Shalom. See you guys in the next episode.